In 2014, two Dutch students were vacationing and volunteering in Panama when they decided to take a hike. Accompanied by a dog named Blue, they set off on a popular hiking trail. But sadly, the girls would never return. Kris and Lisanne were staying in Boquete, a town in the western part of Panama, known for its beautiful natural scenery and hiking trails. On the 1st of April 2014, the girls set out for a hike on the Pianista Trail, a popular route near Boquete. When they failed to return, an extensive search operation was launched. On the 3rd of April, the girls were reported missing, and after the story began to gain media attention, an eyewitness came forward. The witness said that she had seen the girls having lunch with two young men on the day of their disappearance. Authorities took an interest in the sighting, hoping it might shed light on the girls' movements and their interactions in the hours leading up to their disappearance. Yet, despite efforts to trace the men, their identities remained elusive. Later that day, police talked to the taxi driver who dropped Kris and Lisanne at the start of the trail. He told authorities that he'd dropped them off at 1:40 p.m. Strangely, a camera that was later found showed the girls taking photos at the entrance of the trail at 6 p.m. Authorities say that because the camera was manufactured in the UK, it was likely set to Greenwich Mean Time. But this would mean the timing was still out by nearly 2 hours on the day of their disappearance. And if it was set to default, then why would the date be correct? The first significant clue came about 10 weeks after their disappearance. On June the 11th, a local woman named Irma Mirando found a blue lycra backpack near a riverbank. The backpack belonged to Lisanne, and it was discovered approximately 17 kilometers from where the girls were staying before their disappearance. When the backpack was handed in, the police immediately began forensic investigations. Inside the backpack were two neatly folded up bras, two pairs of undamaged sunglasses, and both of the girls' mobile phones, as well as a digital camera, a water bottle, some cash, and Lisanne's passport. When the authorities analyzed the phones and camera, they found something startling. The phones showed that around 6 hours into their hike, a number of phone calls were attempted. The first one took place at 4:39 p.m. Someone had attempted to dial a European emergency number. Then 10 minutes later, Lisanne's phone had been used to dial 911. Neither of the calls were successful due to lack of reception in the area. The next day, Lisanne's phone was used to call 112 once again, and this time she successfully connected, before suddenly the phone disconnected again 2 seconds later. 3 further call attempts were made that same day, including one from Kris's phone. Kris attempted one final call on the 3rd of April, but strangely, her phone stayed powered on all the way up until the 11th of April, before suddenly being switched off with 22% battery still remaining. The girls were initially reported missing by a tour guide known only as F. The guide had arranged a tour with the girls the day before, and he was said to have become concerned when they didn't show. F then visited the language school, which the girls were meant to be volunteering at. A lady at the school named Eileen proceeds to tell him that the girls had not been seen since the day before. Both Eileen and F go to the house in which the girls were staying, but there is no sign of anybody being home. Eileen tells F that there is a spare key in the garden, and so they both let themselves into the house and spend around 30 minutes in the girls' room with neither the police or the owners of the house present. Later that day, 2 French tourists arrived at the Pianista Trail, only to be told by a local resident not to enter the jungle, stating that screams and a loud crash had been heard the previous night. That same day, tour guide F decides to begin searching the trail for the missing girls. Hours later at 5 p.m., he decides to notify the police that Kris and Lisanne were missing. When the forensic checks of Lisanne's backpack were finished, the analysis had found that a number of pictures were taken and deleted during the time of the girls' disappearance. Lisanne's digital camera contained photos from the 1st of April, suggesting that the women had taken a trail at the overlook of the Continental Divide and wandered into the wilderness. This appears to be hours before the first attempt at making emergency calls, with no signs of anything unusual. Both girls were smiling, happy, and taking selfies together. But on the 8th of April, an incredible 90 photos were taken between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m., seemingly deep in the jungle and in near-complete darkness. But perhaps the strangest of all 90 photos was the one that appears to show the back of Kris's head. Why would this photo be taken? The discovery of the backpack led to new searches along the river. Eventually, Kris's denim shorts were found on top of a rock on the opposite bank of the tributary, a few kilometers away from where Lisanne's backpack had previously been discovered. 2 months later, and even closer to where the backpack was found, a pelvic bone believed to belong to one of the girls was recovered. Next, the team found a boot, and shockingly, it still had part of a foot inside it. As the investigations continued, the Panama search team eventually uncovered 33 bones, which were said to have been widely scattered along the same riverbank. Subsequent DNA testing confirmed that they did indeed belong to Kris and Lisanne. Later, when the forensic report came back, there were further shocking details which added yet another layer of mystery to the girls' disappearance. The report stated that their bones had been bleached. One of the theories put forward was an animal attack, especially since the bones were found scattered. But when a Panamanian forensic anthropologist checked over them, he said that there were no discernible scratches of any kind on the bones, neither of natural nor cultural origin, stating, and I quote, "There were no marks on the bones at all." Was this an animal attack? And if so, why were there no marks on the bones? And if it was a murder, then why were Kris and Lisanne still making phone calls and taking pictures?